Always great to have you tuning in with us on the Oakland County Megacast. I'm here in the studios, Ronnie Dahl, alongside the one, the only, Mr. Tyler Keefe. How about that introduction?
Every day.
He really is a superhero here in our studios. He does so much. I will say, though, Tyler, I saw this meme on Facebook this morning, and it said nothing ruins your Friday faster than realizing it's only Tuesday.
It's so true. it's so true. You know, Tuesdays are all right. They're not quite Mondays. You know, they're definitely they don't have the allure of a Saturday. But you know, Tuesdays deserve some respect.
You know what it is with Tuesdays? They make you realize, hey, you started off the week with all these goals, and then Monday came and you didn't even check one thing off that to-do list. So you just throw it on to Tuesday, and then you have a whole new chance all over again. So wake up with a happy heart, a grateful heart, and just throw it on that to-do list. I'm all about my to-do list. I will actually put things on my to-do list that I've already done just so I can show a check mark next to it. It makes me feel productive.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you gotta check things off. It makes you feel happy that you accomplished something, you got it done, and it takes it off the list. Sure.
Hey, Tyler, we have the spooky light on you again.
Now, you know, I changed it. It was matching your light. It was perfectly fine. It's just like slow. It's something about my presence that makes this light detect evil.
No, it's the week of Halloween.
It is. It's spooky season. That includes, you know, gaffing and electric.
Yeah. Oh, goodness gracious. Hey, thank you, everyone, for tuning into the Oakland County Megacast. By now, many of you are well aware that this Megacast grew out of the coronavirus crisis. And what was born was that Tyler and Dave Scott, in the beginning, it was about trying to keep everyone up to date on everything COVID-19 because it was changing so rapidly in the beginning. And maybe thought it was just going to last a few weeks, a few months. Here we are more than or nearly 7 months into the pandemic, and this is still going because every day the news is still changing as well. So what we tried to aim to do here on the Oakland County Megacast is to bring you interviews with interesting people, decision makers, and everyone has a story during this pandemic, and we like to remind everyone everyone's story is important. And so what we try to do is bring you those stories in a long interview format so that you can hear from individuals themselves behind how they're surviving, but also hoping that they can explain some of their decisions, especially from our elected leaders.
Yes.
Because we do hold them under the microscope. We don't give them a pass on this show. But we try to ask the questions that you want, but also what's going into their decision-making process. But we also try to talk with business owners and regular people just about how they're surviving it, and hoping that some of their nuggets of advice can be translated to help you in your day-to-day life as well. So that's the goal here on the Oakland County Megacast. We're here in the studios 10 a.m. to noon, Monday through Friday, although Thursday we are going to take a break on the Megacast to bring you an important event that is going on here in Oakland County.
Yeah, Thursday, 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock, of course, as we spoke yesterday with Suzanne Levine from the Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce about. We will be live on TV and some on the radio from VIBE, the virtual innovative business event through the Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce. You can register for that event, vibe.motowndigital.com. It's vibe.motowndigital.com. 9 o'clock to 1 on Thursday. It's through most of the day. Tomorrow on Wednesday, musical acts, great speakers, informative messages from the fire department, from West Bloomfield Parks, from Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital, and it's all free for the community. So that's going to take up our day on Thursday. Unfortunately, we can't do this show because we're preempted with Vibe, but you're going to get a lot of similar information from interesting people in the community, also in an in-depth fashion, and it's interactive as well. You can join in on the platform we have for that event and interact with a lot of these people, and you'll get great music also from West Bloomfield's very own Steve Acho and Byron and Michelle Conselmo.
I will say I registered for the event as well because like we said, it's free. And,
Yeah.
you know, we all
and
want
fun.
to reinvent and try to live our best lives. And so I am going to take advantage of that day off. And I need to go to Ohio to do a few things. But the good thing is because now it's going to be streamed, I can actually just go ahead and plug that into my phone and plug it into my car and listen to it on my way to Ohio. So that's great news. But we encourage everyone to take advantage of that as well. It's going to be Wednesday and Thursday, correct, Tyler?
Yeah, Wednesday and Thursday. And if you are tuning in on the road as you're traveling about Greater West Bloomfield or state of Michigan or our region, I do have to say during the musical segments and during all the segments, eyes on the road, not on Steve Accio.
Well, I just do the audio portion.
Yeah, of course.
Through my
Just
phone,
urging
through my
those
Bluetooth.
urging those that may be considering both.
Yeah, I can listen and drive at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Hey, but we want to remind everyone too. Speaking of that, we try to also bring you the latest headlines each and every day, coronavirus related. Of course, I mean there are a lot of other headlines out there, but if you go to civiccentertv.com, click on coronavirus, and there you'll find the morning's headlines and a little bit of positive news, maybe. Coronavirus outbreaks in Michigan K through 12 schools continue to rise, but at a slower rate. That's according to a state report released Monday. On college campuses, active cases dropped this week with only the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor recording a significant rise in cases. That's according to the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. According to the weekly report, there were 482 COVID-19 cases linked to new or ongoing outbreaks in 99 K through 12 school buildings in the week that ended October 22nd. Keep in mind the state is releasing this information Monday afternoon, just once a week right now. Those figures represent an 11% weekly increase in cases compared to a 25% rise reported a week earlier. You look at the numbers, any type of increase of a number is not good. However, it's not as high as previously. Plus, there were no new cases reported at any Oakland County schools. However, 2 schools are listed as sites of ongoing outbreaks. This has been so hard to navigate for a lot of these schools and the school officials right now, Tyler.
Yeah, and it's only getting more difficult as time goes on and as COVID-19 continues to throw curveballs at their planning. We'll talk to Kenneth Gutman from the Walled Lake Consolidated School District, whose Facebook page we're also broadcasting on today, about how Walled Lake is dealing with this. But many school districts now have to juggle the fact that they've been dealing with COVID-19. Things were starting to get a little bit better, look a little bit sunny, and they were planning for maybe bringing more people back in the future. And now we're seeing an uptick in cases. Yes, those numbers are going down in the schools, but as they go out, as the positivity rates in these cases continue to rise in the state of Michigan and in neighboring states, it may be a little bit more difficult to make the decision that it's time to bring people back, and it could throw even more curveballs in the plans that were already in place.
And we'll ask the superintendent about that when he comes on. He is scheduled on around 11:35. One place that is experiencing an outbreak, however, though, is going to be the Wayne County Regional Police Training Academy. That's at Livonia's Schoolcraft College. They announced they are going to be temporarily halting in-person instruction until November 9th after 8 confirmed cases of COVID-19 among students. The academy students will use distance learning formats to complete their coursework during this time. The hope is the full class will graduate on time in November. The announcement came the same day the state officials added 3,881 new COVID-19 cases, 29 more deaths, including 1,940 cases from Sunday. So just so you know, the state changed kind of how they're reporting those numbers. They're no longer reporting them on Sundays. They're adding those they're bringing those numbers over to Monday. And also when it comes to schools and colleges, they're listing those new numbers once a week, Monday afternoon. But Schoolcraft having the issue with the police academy right now. Let's hope it doesn't delay and these students graduating, because police departments right now need them on their forces desperately.
Yeah, they absolutely need more people, and it's becoming much more tough to recruit people into these ranks in many departments, including the college campuses, and especially right now with COVID-19 going on and it being so important to be able to enforce these regulations on campus and to keep the people that are working on campus and those that are also being educated on campus safe. It's even more important to have that enforcement. And if you're low on officers and you're not able to get people into your academy, that of course is going to create more problems with that as people exit the department, as people retire, and as those maybe even have to leave work due to illness or an abundance of caution.
Yeah, I think I saw a report. People within law enforcement, police officers across the country are retiring or leaving the profession at record numbers right now. I believe West Bloomfield Police Department, they're hiring right now. Their deadline is coming up, so go to their Facebook page. They've been posting things there on their Facebook page about their recruiting efforts. So we do encourage, because one of the things I like to say to some of these people that are so against law enforcement is be the change.
Yeah.
Join the department. You want to see the department change, join these law enforcement agencies and go in with the intention of being the change. Because one of the problems that we're having, so many people right now do not want to go into law enforcement, but we need people from diverse backgrounds and diverse ethnicities to join the ranks so that everyone can have a voice. Because I'll tell you what, you sit in a patrol car with someone for 8 to 12 hours, especially someone from a different background, race, religion, you get to know that person, but you also get to know where they come from and their culture and their way of thinking as well. And it changes you. So we need people of diverse backgrounds to join our law enforcement agencies in order to make positive change.
And people who care, and people who want to make a difference, and try to change things from within. And, maybe it's possible, maybe it's not, but if you have it in you to try it and to try to make a difference and try to see things from the inside and see what can be changed and move to change it, then there's an opportunity there.
Yeah, I mean, because we all think that when we're on the outside, why don't they just do A, B, C, D, and E? When you're on the inside, it's a different story, and you get to see the roadblocks that are in your way. But one thing I used to always say when I worked for the feds was I used to call it the fuzzy fed world, but it taught me to be extremely creative and think outside the box. Because if I heard one time, I heard it 1,000 times. We don't do it that way. Or everything that could be so simple was so difficult. Like you had to jump through so many hoops. And all it did was it made me think outside the box in order to get things accomplished. And so sometimes that's how you have to approach life as well. Also in the headlines, Oakland County right now trying to think down the road long term about our economy. And so despite its years of stunning growth as Michigan's richest county and key job generator, Oakland County's continued success is no sure thing in the COVID-19 era. To address the economic challenges, officials unveiled a 30-page strategic action plan. The plan aims to spur innovation, investment, and growth through a focus on digitized manufacturing, regional collaboration, environmental sustainability, and increased workforce education and training. That is kind of the goal in the Oakland County, coming out of the Oakland County Executive's office right now, and that they know that, hey, we can't do things business as usual right now. We need to start thinking outside the box, and let's look at these different avenues and different worlds of of the economy, because what worked 10, 15, 20 years ago is not going to work now. So they're trying to think long term and say, what can we do to address the economy, but also to bring some of these jobs and the innovation of these jobs into Oakland County.
And that's something that the commission and the executive's office and other agencies in Oakland County have been really hard at work at throughout the pandemic and continue to try to navigate, because this COVID-19 landscape continues to change what the status is for a lot of our businesses, particularly the small businesses, which are one of the economic backbones of many of our communities here in Oakland County and all throughout southeastern Michigan. And as the struggles of COVID-19 continue on, these businesses continue to have those struggles amount more and more exponentially over time, and they need this kind of help in order to survive. And so the county seems to be doing whatever they can to provide some tools to help these businesses try to survive this.
You'll find those headlines and so much more over on the civiccentertv.com. Click on coronavirus. Also at the top of the page, we put a direct link to the CDC, the state of Michigan. So when you're looking at the numbers for the schools or even just the daily numbers, just click on civiccentertv.com and go there to the state of Michigan, and you'll be able to navigate to the direct numbers yourself, so you can get that information on your own as well, give you a little bit more context. And also the Oakland County website. What I do each and every day is, if you go on, then you can, they'll do media, and that's where they post kind of their latest information and their press releases, and you can find some information about some of the things going on directly here in Oakland County. It's just always good to, in my opinion, to be able to also get that information directly for yourself to read more in context instead of getting it in a 20-second headline. With that gets us through the morning headlines. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, but when we come back, we have a great show for you here on the Tuesday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. I'm so excited, really an honor to speak to our first guest of the morning, Keith Famey. He is an executive producer. Filmmaking that they are doing is so incredible. It just makes your heart swell. And the stories that they're telling is important stories. So we'll check in with him. And as Tyler mentioned earlier, we'll also be speaking with Ken Gutman. He's the superintendent of the Walled Lake Schools, a community engagement specialist with Vibe Credit Union. How are they doing during all of this? But also on top of that, we'll be checking in to talk a little bit more about the Vibe event coming up this week as well, or Wednesday and Thursday. I say this week. We're already in the middle of the week. And then Mike Lorenz, he is over at Cohen and Company. We're going to end out the show with some tax advice. We can all use it right now, because this is the time to start getting all the information together, because tax season is here before you know it. But with that, let's take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast. And just a reminder, you can catch us Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, Channel 15 on Comcast, Channel 99 on AT&T, and also, if you're out driving around, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM, The Biff.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now, it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart, keep wearing a mask in public, and if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
Thank you for tuning in to the Tuesday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl, here in the studios of CivicCenterTV.com and 89.3 Lakes FM. in the greater West Bloomfield area. My mother recently passed away, but one of the things she loved to do was make quilts, and these quilts have been passed down in our family. But watching her make these quilts, it always signified to me what our American neighborhoods were made up of. We are a patchwork of people, and every one of us came from a different area, a different background, but when we stitch us together, we become a community. And Keith Famey is an executive producer with Visionalist Entertainment Productions, and watching some of your films, they make your heart swell. You do tell American stories in a beautiful way, and they always remind me of a quilt and bringing people together and stitching us together in a community. So thank you for taking time to be with us here on the Oakland County Megacast.
You're welcome. I love that analogy. If you don't mind, can I use that?
Absolutely, use it any way. But we're stitched together with pieces that maybe look like they didn't fit, but if you put them together and you stitch them together, we become whole.
Yeah, if you really think about it, that is what America is. I mean, that's really what the world is. And through the stitching of all these different ethnic cultures and people lie stories that quite often, if we pay attention and listen to and delve into, can help navigate us through our own lives, from things that we learn from other people's lives. And yeah, that's what we do. I love it. I love the stories that we tell and the impact that we have on communities and people's lives. And nothing's more gratifying knowing that we help tell people's stories. And that's our slogan. We tell America's stories. That is it. So
I always say people are my passion. People hate riding with me in an Uber because I've actually had an Uber driver get lost because I was talking to him so much. But I love their stories. I love their backgrounds. And share with us, though, first, before we get into some of the work that you're doing currently, how you got started in this, because it's a leap of faith.
It is. So I'm 60 now. So my earlier life, everyone has, I'd like to think, maybe an earlier life that they participated in something. Some people ride their career to the end, but I had an earlier career, and I was a chef. I had restaurants and in the metro area, and traveled around and did that for many years. Then I ended up on the show Survivor, and that was a great experience. Everyone asked me what it was like. I said hits every emotion: sleep deprivation, fun, exciting, adventurous, sad, all that stuff. It was really great. Launched a series with Food Network after that. Traveled extensively doing 32 shows all over the world, from Bora Bora to Memphis. Food exploration, adventure style cooking. And in 2003 and years prior to that, I was taking care of my father, who had Alzheimer's. And when he passed away, and my mom and I were there when he took his last breath, and I don't know, I guess it was kind of time for me to do I did some personal soul searching and kind of asked myself, do I really want to be this adventure chef guy in front of the camera the rest of my life? But I knew a lot about production because I'd been doing it for so many years. And I thought, I think I want to help people tell their stories, and let's go there. And when somebody dies and you're with them and they're a loved one, it brings up a whole wide range of unusual emotions, everything from sadness, loneliness, to laughter. Like, that's it, that last breath, that's it. And it was really profound for me. And so I just decided that I wanted to, and sadly, I never put the camera on my dad. He was a World War II veteran, flew B-17 bombers, and I knew all kinds of stories, and I never put the camera on him, and I regret it to this day. So then I decided that was going to do. I made this transition and decided I was going to help tell people stories. And we've been fortunate. We've won 11 Emmys to date, and we've done some really inspirational films, everything from an Our Story series of ethnic communities, following people back to their home roots, to we did a 13-part series about women and aging, a 7-part series about men and aging. Tremendous amount of military tribute films, Our Greatest Generation, Our Vietnam Generation. We did a film about depression and suicide, and we did really an emotional story with a young lady who was fighting cancer, and she was 23 years old, and I met her, and I spent 8 months in her life of understanding what it's like to go through cancer and how lonely cancer could be. And Mary, when she was entered in the hospice, she met a blind carpenter who built a 3.5-foot sailboat for her, where her ashes went in, and it was set sail in northern Lake Michigan. We followed it all the way to New York City, and people from all walks of life helped Mary get to the ocean, because she always wanted to see the ocean, because she wrote a message on the sail that said, "My name is Mary. I died of cardiac sarcoma. My ashes are in this boat. If you find me, please place me back on my path, and I'll bless you from heaven." And it's just a really, really raw, touching story about people helping Mary get to the ocean who had no idea who she was. So these, so that we, did that film, and then we did a film called Those on the Front Lines of Cancer, Those on the Front Lines of Alzheimer's. And we're working on three very important films now. Of course, COVID's making it more complicated, but we've figured it out, and we are obviously very safe in everything that we do, and when we're filming and interviewing and so on.
Keith, before I get into questions about how you are managing during COVID and if it sidelined some of these projects, coming from the broadcast news industry, I know so many people that watch your films and they inspire them. What advice do you give to people to follow their heart? Because there are a lot of great storytellers out there who have a passion, who want to be a part of telling these important stories instead of that day-to-day news grind. What suggestions or advice do you have to anyone, even if it's a college student right now, who's watched some of your programming, who wants to take that message and make it a part of their world, fabric, so that it inspires other people? Is there a way to do that and actually get paid as well?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm really fortunate. Over the years, we've developed a really, really great relationship with Detroit Public Television. That is our launch station for PBS. So all of our films launch in Detroit here and then move out throughout the state and through the country. I did write a book in relation to just that subject, actually, ironically enough. It's called, helpful if I wouldn't drop it. It's
no, that's okay.
Living Through the Lens. Actually, I kind of wrote a book that actually, it tells a whole series of stories from behind the scenes of a lot of the films we've done and why we did it and the what drove it. But to answer your question, I have 3 or 4 rules that are always in my head. I always think of first before I started any project, and all of them have to work in sync. If they don't, then I know the film can't go forward. It doesn't matter how much I love it or care for it and stuff. And by the way, the love and caring for a story drives everything, and it can even mess up your decision-making process, because you become so passionate about a story that it has to be told that you then put some of the other things aside, and it can become problematic. But you find a way to get it done. At least that's what we always do. So the rules are always, for me, is who's going to care about it? Who's going to care about the film? Who's it going to help? Is it going to help anybody in any way or form? Where is it going to be seen? Is it online? Is it a film festival? Is it on television? Who's going to pay for it? And those 4 all have to work. They have to work together at some point in the process. Now, some of them you may put aside, and I'll worry about who's it going to help later. I know the story is going to resonate with people and so on, but they all have to really at some point work. And we've had very few projects that we've started in the last 16 years or so that we haven't gone ahead and completed. Very, very few. Because I really think through that process, and you have to find, in public television or in documentary filmmaking, you've got to find individuals that are passionate about what you're doing, that care about what you're doing. You have to find individuals that are willing to share their story, and what about their story that touches you as a person? Because you're a storyteller, you're not just a producer, you're a storyteller. And you have to be able to develop relationships with your characters and individuals you're working with, that they trust in you, that you're going to protect their story and that they're the most important one. So nothing we do is newsy. Not that newsy's bad, but it's not news in the sense that I got you kind of thing. I'm very careful and very protective of everybody that we work with in all ways. It's just, it's something that's really important to me that they at the end walk away saying, oh my God, it was such a great experience. Thank you. And then you got to find somebody to help support it, whether it's foundations or companies or individuals that it resonates with them in some way that helps support the process. Now, almost on all of our projects, and documentary film owners can tell you this, we'll go down the path of production ahead of time. And a lot of those pieces I know in my mind will fall in place through experience, but it can be scary at times. You can get pretty far into a project and spend thousands of dollars in hopes that you're going to be able to bring it to somebody's attention that they're going to want to help support it.
That's where the leap of faith comes in. How do you maintain that wall of objectivity? Because if you're following a subject for 8 months, you're getting pretty emotionally attached to that individual in that project as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, and Mary, that's very true with Mary. She was the same age as my daughter when I met her, and she was living a very lonely existence, living in a nursing home she actually worked at when she got sick because she had a very difficult relationship with her parents. So yeah, Mary's a different story because I ended up taking her to a lot of her doctor's appointments and stuff. I just couldn't stand the loneliness that I experienced, and which was really why I set out to do the film. I was so touched by the loneliness of this one person. I was only going to do one interview with her for another documentary that she didn't even end up in because I just felt her story was too important by itself. So how do you you cannot become attached. It's at what level you become attached. And yes, I always try to toe a line of objectivity, but I become attached to everybody in some way or form. We're working on a film right now about Down syndrome, and I just love these kids and these families, and it's so touching for me, the response I get from the families that they're so excited that we care about their story or their son or daughter's story. And I just it does more for me than any money. It just drives me that I know that they're getting a voice through something we're doing. And I guess my only big regret is I'm 60. I wish I was 30, so that I could do another 40 years of this, but likely it's probably another 10, 15 years of this, whatever. But or who knows, Clint Eastwood, like, the guy's 91 years old and made a movie, directed it, started it.
Exactly. And that's where it comes in, and we teach the next generation to carry on our heart and our soul in some of these projects.
Yeah, it's imperative that as community leaders and storytellers that we do that. We exactly do that. We help mold and shape and drive a thought of empathy and observation and curiosity for the next generation, especially in, obviously that so many of them are, they spend so much time online, which is not a bad thing, but we grew up, I'm not sure how old you are, but I grew up in this, late 60s and 70s and so on, and touchy-feely community relationships, and that was just common. So I like to bring that out in stories, and I really like to turn the mirror on the audience so that they, as they're watching it, they end up saying to themselves, what about me? How does this affect me? How has this touched me? What have I learned from this? So that it's not just an experience of, well, that's a great documentary, it was very historical and it was great, but I want them to be touched by the stories that we tell. We're working on a film besides the Down syndrome film is called Chromosomally Enhanced, What's Your Superpower? And it was, a name I came up with in the sense of, after spending some time with some of the kids with Down syndrome, I thought, my God, that extra chromosome is their superpower. That empathy, sympathy, the caringness, the lovingness that they exude just about to anybody is their superpower. And boy, the world would be a different place if we had a little more of that right now, huh? So that was, for me, I wanted to bring that out in that film, and that's where my focus is. The film we're working on, Shoah Ambassadors, is about the Holocaust. And I wanted to find a way to tell the Holocaust story differently. So after several months of searching, we found two young people in their early 20s, both of which non-Jewish, never been to the Holocaust Museum, knew very little about the Holocaust. Both of them have their own talents. One's a sculptor artist, graduate of CCS. The other one's a singer, songwriter, rapper from Detroit. And I immersed them in the Holocaust. They interviewed 5 Holocaust survivors. They've toured the museum. They've, countless interviews and stuff. And now we're starting to finish the ending of the film. And what they've created in song, in sculpture, from their own interpretation. And the film it's for the younger generation. This is for the younger generation. This is, as I explained to the community leaders of Jewish community, this is not for the Jewish community. This is for those, I want a bigger audience to understand the significance of the Holocaust and what it meant, for a family to be split up and to lose a child and to lose a parent and everything that took place there. And these 2 young people, Haley and Curtis, are just hitting it out of the park. It's going to be a sensational film that we hope is going to air on January 28th. January 27th is Holocaust Remembrance Week. It looks like we're locked in for January 28th for that film.
Keith Famey joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. He's the executive producer at Visionalist Entertainment Productions with us today on the program. And Keith, you're so well-traveled and you've met so many different people from all walks of life over the course of your career, whether it be from all across America during your time on Survivor, the Australian Outback, or during all your time traveling the country and the world for your adventure cooking shows, and then with all these films that you make, meeting all types of people in all different kinds of situations and in all different points of their life. How has meeting all of these different kinds of people and interacting with them in different settings helped to inform the way you look for stories, the way that you tell stories, and what advice do you have for people that are either young filmmakers, journalists, or just regular people out in the community for approaching the way that they interact with other people to live a more empathic and understanding life, especially in the world that we're in today that seems to be more divisive each and every day as we go on?
Yeah, it's a great question, and here's your answer. Keep your eyes and ears open, and the story is not about you. It's not all about you. And so if you're there, to the younger generation, to young filmmakers, to young producers, you have to listen. First of all, to find stories, just keep your eyes and ears open. The stories are there. And then when you're spending time with somebody, this weekend we had an amazing opportunity to spend time with Pat Freehan. Bill Freehan was the Detroit Tigers catcher. He caught the big catch, 1968 World Series. And Bill is now in hospice in northern Michigan, and we're working on a film called End of Life Transitioning with Hospice of Michigan. And it's a historical look at hospice. And so spending time with Pat Freehan, talking about Bill's life, and with their hospice care worker who was there with them. The story I'm going to go tell is never the story I'm going to tell. I always tell it to my producers, listen, it doesn't matter what journey we start on. The story we're going to tell is not the story we're going to tell. We have to be open-minded enough to let the story breathe, almost like a great bottle of wine. So as I was sitting there, spending time with, Mrs. Freehan and so on, I really started to realize that the story there was really their love story. And as we start building this piece within this film about hospice, it's really the love story and the caringness that a couple that met when they were 14 years old in high school that are still together, and how one spouse, in this case, Mrs. Freehan, is still deeply caring for her husband who's still at home and in hospice with Alzheimer's. And it's a journey in life every one of us will go through in some form or not. I kid you not, it will happen. Whether you're young or old, we're all gonna ride that one last roller coaster ride that we don't know where it's going. That's just a fact. And I think that becoming more sensitive to the shortness of life. When you hit 60, you think, oh my God. Then you realize oh my God, there's so much more time behind me than there's in front of me. And I think that how you live your life today, both physically and mentally, would determine how you age tomorrow. And it will also determine your relationships, your friendships, your loved ones, and what means most to you as you get older, as you navigate through life. And I say it, all my people that work with me for me are just young. And I always say to them, suck in this moment, breathe it deep, experience what we're feeling right now, because 10 years from now, you'll talk about this, but feel it now because it goes away so quickly. These times go like this. And when you're 20, 30, it just doesn't feel like that. It feels like forever. But, you know, when you're older, it feels, you know, it happens so much quicker. Hope that helped.
It definitely does. And so many wise words that you're sharing with us. Your movies are beautiful. For anyone that hasn't seen them, we invite you to go on the website and check them out. And with that, I wonder, how has this been for you and your team during COVID-19 and the pandemic? Because the style of films that you're making are about that connection. And COVID-19, while it's bringing people together in one way, it's also separating us in so many other ways. So how is that impacting how you're doing your job? And is it a barrier that kind of it makes it harder for you to reach your subject in a more heart-to-heart way?
Well, you know, this is an example of, this was when we were filming at the Holocaust Museum. I'm sitting with Edith, one of the Holocaust survivors. She was on the kinder transport as a little girl. You know, obviously I'm wearing a mask. So when we film, everything we do, first of all, the crew obviously wears masks and things like that. I mean, it's ludicrous to think that you wouldn't. And when we go into settings, first of all, I know ahead of time when we're going into a setting what we can expect, and at the same time what the expectation is. So in filming with 5 Holocaust survivors, as an example, with an enormous crew, it was a 4-camera setup. It was a really complicated day. You know, I worked really closely with the Holocaust Memorial Center to navigate through how we were going to do this filming, how everybody was going to be safe, et cetera, et cetera. So we did a lot of planning so that when it all unfolded, everybody was safe. You know, we did this months ago. Nobody got sick. Everybody was safe. Everybody had a wonderful experience. So you have to do more homework. You have to be wise. You have to think. You got to think through every problem ahead of time. What if this and what if that, and try to, you know, stack the deck in your favor. That's the only way to really do it. I mean, see, life can't stop. At the same time, you have to be smart about life. I mean, look what we're going through now with the pandemic. I personally know several people within my network that are stuck home sick and have contracted COVID. And so, knock on wood, I just, you know, and I said to my team this morning, we have to do, and we do it, you know, here in the office and so on, we have to be very vigilant about this and never let our guard down if possible, because I can't get sick. As much as, I don't want to get sick, but I can't get sick. I don't want anybody to get sick here. We have a tremendous amount of production schedules going on and stuff, and it would just halt us in a terrible way. And since we're not a huge company with all kinds of cash flow, a pause like that would be very complicated. So we take it very, very serious. And when we're filming with children, we did a plane pull, which just really turned out amazing. The idea was, how do we close the film for the chromosome enhanced film, which we're still working on, but how we need to shoot the close of the film in the fall. And I wanted to bring together 9 of our children to pull the B-17 Yankee Lady bomber out at Willow Run Airport, which of course you think, how are 9 kids going to pull a 33,000 pound plane? It's not even practical. And it's an amazing scene. You see these kids on this unfold. Of course, they're wearing masks. We planned this right down to the moment of it. And the big hangar door opens at Willow Run. The B-17 is sitting out there, and these kids come out. They've got gloves on. They've got their masks on. And they get in front of the rope, and they go to pull the plane. Of course, they can't pull the plane. And boom, in comes a whole series of first responders, sheriffs, police, fire trucks, and then a tank that is owned by a retired Brigadier General John Cahavi. On the tank is Lomas Brown and Eric Hipple from the Detroit Lions. And now this whole brigade comes in, and they, with the kids, pull this plane. And it's going to be a beautiful closing to the film that we hope we're going to cut to the song Respect by Aretha Franklin. And it just tied in that whole superpower thing. and how one as a community, we work together as one, we can all do so much. And very, very powerful. But that planning took weeks, weeks and meetings to, for the COVID restrictions and how we're going to do this. And it was a closed set and the families are there and stuff. But you can go online and you can go to that website for that film and you can literally watch a short version trailer of that plane pull. And it turned out, and Eric Hipple and Lomas Brown these guys were spectacular to work with. They were great with the kids and just really wonderful.
And your stories that you tell are wonderful as all. We've run a little bit over our time, but you have so many fascinating stories. We'll be looking forward to having you back on, maybe when some of your latest films do come out, so that we can speak more in depth. We want to thank you so much, Keith Famey, with us here on the Oakland County Megacast, for all that you do as well in documenting these important stories here within our community. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, and when we come back, the superintendent from the Walled Lake School District will be joining us on the Oakland County Megacast.
And we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Great to have you with us on the Tuesday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios with Tyler Keith. As a reminder, you can catch us Monday through Friday here, 10 a.m. to noon, Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. You can also catch us on Channel 15 on Comcast, Channel 99 on AT&T. If you're out driving around, tune in to 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM, The Beth. We are going to shift the focus just a little bit, and let's talk about the schools, because while school has been reopened, the kids are back to learning remotely or otherwise. There is still so much going on in the schools, and decisions are being made each and every day. So let's bring in Ken Gutman. He's the superintendent of the Walled Lake School District. Thank you for being with us, as always, here on the Oakland County Megacast.
It is always a pleasure to be here with you. Although I was so fascinated by Keith Famey's interview, I was hoping he would just keep going.
He was really interesting, wasn't he?
It was great.
But you're always interesting as well. And what you have to say to the parents and the students within your school district is so important. And it's changing all the time. So before we even kind of get into where things stand right now, we're seeing the headlines right now about the increasing cases. Does that send a little panic through you each and every day?
Every time I see the numbers, it sends a little panic through me. So it's a little scary how high the numbers are. But I was on a call with the Oakland County Health Department yesterday. I'm meeting with them at least once a week with a group of superintendents, and I had a separate call yesterday. And they continue to reassure us and reassured me yesterday that that the transmission's not occurring in school. So we were kind of pressing them to say, okay, so will you come out and say everyone should be in school? We're not there yet, but they did say that the transmission's not occurring there. They're not in a place where they would say you shouldn't be in school.
So many parents are struggling with this because there is a lot of conflicting information that comes out each and every day. And some of the parents, where they've seen their kids maybe go from A, B students down to C, D, and even F students, because maybe they're just not grasping the whole virtual world learning or the hybrid method. What do you say to those parents to try to get their students back on track?
Well, there's no way that virtual learning replaces in-person learning. It's never going to be as good. There's that human interaction. We have highly trained, incredible teachers who can work with that, and they're doing the very best they can, doing a nice job virtually as well. In our district, we're offering different options. So for those for whom virtual is not working, we're going to have an in-person option, at least at the elementary level to start, and later on at the secondary level. I would continue to do what you can to work with students, to reach out to our teachers. They're available, and see how we can personalize lessons and instruction, because it's not easy. It's not easy for all. It's even beyond the grades dropping. It's really the lost instruction where that's happening. And so that's why we want to try to get in-person learning as much as we can. Again, elementary first and then secondary.
Are there talks going on right now within members of you and your staff about what happens if Michigan goes back to phase 3 and everything gets shut down again?
You bet. Yeah, we're planning for that as well. We also have to plan for that. So I'll give you an example. We go back and at one of our elementary schools, someone tests positive. There's an outbreak, which is, of course, 2 or more people. Something happens. We have to close a school. Well, we go back to virtual the next day. And that's what we'll do if in fact, we go back to phase 3. We'll continue our virtual program. We'll have 2 versions of it. We'll have a synchronous version with teacher instruction interaction, and an asynchronous version with through a third-party company that we're currently using, which offers parents the chance for students to work independently and consult with the teacher periodically.
I think we've seen the good that has come out of this, and the fact that students without internet access or computers, that issue has been addressed. Students that relied on going to school to get fed, that's been addressed. So those are some of the good things I think that have already come out of this pandemic. But I also wonder about the kids where school is their safe space, and there is no one now watching out for them. Maybe they're in a home life that isn't so safe, or they're the ones, like, we know the stories of 3rd and 4th graders that are responsible for basically raising their younger siblings that may be in 1st grade or 2nd grade. How do you try to detect what's going on in their lives virtually? Is it even possible, or are we going to see a lot of these kids slip through the cracks right now? And it's no fault of the school district or teachers at all. It's just the world we're living in.
It may not be our fault, but we still take it personally. I mean, we want to make sure we're helping each and every one of our children. And you called it out. I mean, there's abuse in some homes. There are children who are in really bad situations, and when they come to school, we are not only their safe place, but we can also find help for them. We can see the issues. They confide in us. But it is more difficult online. Now, can a teacher see something that's happening in the background of a Zoom call, for example, and reach out and do what's right? Sure. Is it more difficult than in person? Absolutely. We don't want to see anyone fall through the cracks. We go back to phase 3. I have huge concerns about more students falling through the cracks. And at the same time, this is our first pandemic in 100 years. It's a health emergency, and I certainly would understand if that's what happened.
Ken Gutman with us. He is the superintendent of the Walled Lake Consolidated School District, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. And Ken, the last time we spoke, there was some urgency from parents and from the community trying to figure out when they could expect a potential return to school. Of course, with the constraints that we're in right now, with the positivity rates related to our testing on the rise, even though the numbers, we just had a report today that in K through 12 schools, the case numbers are starting to dwindle a bit at this moment in time. Some schools have said that they initially planned to return to school after 10 weeks. Some said maybe next semester at the first of the year. As of now, what's the discussion been within Walled Lake about the timing of returning kids to school, even if it's a gradual return that starts with the lower grades and then eventually to the upper grades in the high school? What are the plans, what at least are the discussions at this time in terms of what that timetable might be given the constraints we're under at this moment?
Yeah, great question. We're actually bringing back our elementary students. And when I say bringing back, there's an option. So there's an in-person option, and as I said, there are 2 virtual options. Our elementary students have the option of returning in a couple of weeks, and it will be 5 days a week in-person instruction in our elementary schools. Our secondary students right now are on hold until January for a variety of reasons, including scheduling, changing staff, changing teachers, ability to fulfill a schedule, and potentially our high school students, for example, wouldn't be able to get the classes they need to graduate. But we're starting with our elementary students. We're starting in a couple of weeks. We don't intend to delay that start beyond a couple of weeks from now. And at the same time, we are concerned about the numbers. We'll watch them. But, I'm working with the health department. We all are. All of us as superintendents spend time with the health department, and they continue to reassure us transmission's not occurring in schools. So we're a go for our elementaries, for an option for in-person learning. And we look forward to getting our secondary students back in the second semester.
A lot of parents would love to see that as well. I think one of the things coming out of this pandemic as well, parents are starting to realize just how important and how valuable teachers really are, especially after they've been virtually trying to assist their kids with their homework, because 5th grade math is just not the same. I'm sorry, you'd learn to carry the 1 if I had a kid.
Oh, yeah.
And cursive writing would be mandated. You are going to learn cursive writing. But with that, too, we have so much focus on the kids right now. And we need to focus on the kids. But teachers are struggling right now as well. And I think the conversation has kind of focused and shifted away from the teachers and what they're going through. And I was speaking recently with someone who is a teacher, not in your district though, and the stress that they have because that school is a hybrid, and they're doing hybrid, but then they're also doing online, and then because of a teacher shortage, they had to pick up another subject. And some of these teachers are working like crazy. Do you want to address the issue with what the teachers are going through right now as well?
I do. Thank you. First of all, teaching is really hard on a regular basis, on a regular day, in a regular school year. These teachers spend a lot of time training and learning and becoming, kind of honing their craft and becoming expert instructors. Then you throw in a pandemic, the fact that they're teaching from home at times, teaching online, which is something that none of us went to school for, right? We didn't. When I was a teacher, I didn't have a computer in my room yet. That dates me a little bit. But the stress our teachers are under is incredible. And we feel really fortunate to have fantastic teachers in our district. But we understand that they're under more pressure than ever, whether they're teaching virtually or they're anticipating potentially nervously coming back to in-person instruction. It's hard. It's really hard because you want to do your best to reach each and every one of your children. And there are so many other variables now that were not there before, and yet they're not going to let any child go. And so the stress they put on themselves, in addition to the stress that's put on them with what's going on in society, is just incredible. And I couldn't be more grateful for what our teachers are doing, not just in Walled Lake, but across the state and the nation. This is a really difficult time to be a teacher.
Yeah, and it just came across the news alert system that the state is going to be offering some support. Teachers in schools, support staffers across the state are going to be eligible for cash grants for the extra work that they put in during the last school year because of the pandemic. So teachers are going to be eligible for $500 cash, support staff $250. So a little bit of good news for some of the teachers, although $500 for what they're doing, a lot of them still buying so many supplies out of their own pocket. It's a little something, but that just coming across the news wire, so that's good that the teachers and the support staff are seeing a little bit of grace in that area and support from the state and the administration out of Lansing. And with that, how are you on teacher shortages? I know in the beginning of the school year, that was a big issue that people were saying, hey, they didn't think they were going to have enough teachers. How is that working in your district? And with substitute teachers, can you even hire a substitute right now? I mean, it's like, oh, I have a computer, I have the internet. Yeah, I can remote teach. I mean, what is that like?
Yeah, I didn't mean to laugh when you said substitute teachers, but that just illustrates how hard it is to find subs. We're good on teachers right now. there is an impending teacher shortage in the state of Michigan, and when you see the enrollment in schools of education down significantly, 2/3 in some places. So there's already an impending teacher shortage, and there are some critical shortage areas. Some of our high school specialty science areas, it's difficult to find teachers. Special education, it's difficult to find teachers, but we're going to be fully staffed. Our issue is going to be subs, and we continue to reach out. We continue to try to hire. And it's all of the districts around us as well that people don't want to substitute teach right now. They don't necessarily want to in person, and they don't necessarily want to online. And so that will be a struggle for us. That's where we're going to struggle. We're going to do our best to fulfill all of those substitute teacher roles, particularly as teachers and others may or may not be able to make it to work every day. And if they can't, how do you fill that spot? So yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about the substitute teacher shortage more than a teacher shortage.
You're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. We are speaking with Ken Gutman right now. He's the superintendent of the Walled Lake Schools, and kind of just continuing the conversation a bit about substitute teachers. I know in some cases, a lot of substitute teachers are recent retirees and people who came in from that. Maybe they, if you're retired, you have a little bit of extra time. But also when you're retired from a job, usually those people are not the, how do we put this kindly? They're not very tech savvy, so you're kind of working with that generational gap as well. But if someone is maybe out there listening, if they have been recently laid off and they're looking for full-time employment, but maybe they thought about teaching in the meantime, or they're very specialized in one area, what does it take to be a substitute?
So we used to require a bachelor's degree for that. Now we require a number of courses within the university. So I would just throw a plug out there to say, call 248-956-2000. Ask for our human resources department. We'd love to talk to you about what your transcripts look like, what your interest is. We're looking for subs, and we'd love to have you come work in Walled Lake Schools.
Yeah, and the thing on top of that, too, is you do have a lot of people that have been in the workforce, and I've always found it more beneficial when I have professors who actually worked in the industry in which they were teaching. So if they were retired reporters or retired producers, because coming from the journalistic world, one thing I felt like wasn't shared a lot is there were a lot of professors who only went the professor route. They'd never been in a mainstream newsroom, so they didn't understand what it actually took. And if someone really explained that, hey, you're probably only going to make 20 grand when you first get out of college, you might rethink that industry. And how many kids even today, or students, I want to say, because I do a little bit of consulting work or talk with students, they don't understand what the real world is like in some of these industries. So I think if you can bring people in to help teach the kids in the next generation, but give them a realistic view of what that industry is, then those students are going to be better set up to succeed in some of those industries.
Yeah, we agree. It'd be great to have someone with the content area knowledge, with experience in that. And then there are two other aspects that are particularly important. There's the way of delivering it, and teaching methodology can be a science and an art all of its own. And then, of course, the all-important relationships with students. You really have to have a combination of all of that. So you have to have the content knowledge. You have to be able to relate to students in a way that's meaningful to them and they know you care. And you also have to have a way of teaching that makes it meaningful as well. So we're certainly interested in having someone come in who can help out our kids, our students.
Ken Gutman with us. He is the superintendent of the Walled Lake Consolidated School District, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast throughout the local area, including on the Facebook page of the Walled Lake Consolidated School District, with a couple of thank yous coming in from those watching in the Walled Lake area, those of the 40 currently turning in on the live broadcast right now. And Ken, as this pandemic continues on, seems to just be never ending at this point. It's a difficult time, and it's been a difficult process since March in the previous school year, and now currently in this school year, definitely for teachers who are working quite literally in some cases around the clock to modify their lesson plans and to attend to the needs of their virtual students and in their in-person students, for administrations like yourself as well, and of course, most importantly, for the students. What is Walled Lake doing, or what efforts does your district continue to do at this point to support not only the students and their families in this difficult time, but also the educators who are under so much stress to get this right and want to do this the right way for the kids in a situation that in many cases is not easy, and it sometimes can feel impossible?
So we continue to work really closely with our associations and make sure that we're providing opportunities for our staff to be successful. It's difficult. It's really difficult to appropriately share how much you appreciate your staff when you can't see them in person. There's only so much you can do through Zoom. There's only so much you can do in an era where budgets are not what they should be in education, and it's not all monetary. I can't tell you how much I can't tell you enough how much we appreciate our staff and wish we could do more for them. I look forward to the day when I can see them all again and talk to them in person. But you know, as I was saying before, it's a tough time to be a teacher. It's a tough time to be support staff. Tough time to be an administrator. We'll continue to be there for them in any way we can be there for them. It's just we don't have as many options as we used to have.
You and your entire staff, you're put in such a hard spot right now, and I know that you extend your gratitude to all of those working within the district. And you know, so many times, if you even just have a boss come up and say, you know, we want to let you know, thank you. We appreciate everything that you're doing, so that's great that you recognize that as well. Anything quickly that we didn't ask, maybe that you want to let the people in your district know before we let you go?
Sure, let me give you one that I can't talk about. How about that?
Okay.
So we did recently have a hack of our technology systems, and we have most of our systems restored. They should all be up shortly. We are working with the FBI, with cyber professionals, with attorneys who specialize in this. And the one burning question that we all have, including all of our parents, and I know our staff and our students, is what was taken. And we certainly look forward to finding out all of the details of that and sharing it when we're allowed to do that. I promise you we're going to err on the side of caution and protect our community once we have all the details.
And Superintendent, I'm glad that you actually brought that up. And I will say, what do you think that you've learned so far from that experience that you would like other school districts or even just other businesses and regular people to know about what you've gone through and maybe how they can protect themselves?
Yeah, I think the you can do all the training in the world, and we're about to do more of it about what you should click on and what you shouldn't. It's as simple as clicking a link that lets someone into your system. And some of these hackers have really sophisticated ways of looking like your bank, looking like your boss, looking like someone else that you would trust. And so really it's about training your staff and then hoping that someone doesn't inadvertently click on a link they shouldn't click on.
And we will say we're all going through that. I get them daily almost from Amazon, Netflix, my Apple account, and even the phone calls from Apple. And they look so real. Even my husband got one from Netflix. And I'm like, of course it's a scam. The Netflix is my name. Why would you be getting the email? But they are so good and they do look so real. So it's like you said, just don't click on them. Go to the actual website of that, if it's Amazon, and click on your account from there. Never click on the link. So that's good to know, and we thank you for sharing that. And we're hoping, when you say FBI, always means it's kind of a little bit more serious, but these hackers are good, and so many of them are outside of the country, and even the most experienced people do fall for it as well. So just for the people out there to be aware. So thank you for sharing that with us as well. And everyone, learn from your mistake, I would imagine, is what you want everyone to know.
You bet.
Well, thank you so much for being with us on today's edition of the Oakland County Megacast. And we're hoping that the hack was not too serious and that they got really valuable information and that it's a detriment to some of the people within your district. Tyler and I are going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, and when we come back, still a lot to get to in the last hour of the Megacast.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jonay Khaldun. I'm the Chief Medical Executive for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The people who are at highest risk of getting severely ill from COVID-19 are the elderly and those with chronic medical conditions. That includes people with heart disease, diabetes, COPD, or those who have compromised immune systems. People who are in those categories should right now be staying at home as much as possible and not going out if it is not essential. If you fit into one of those categories, those are the things you should do. And if you have a family member who fits into one of those categories, you should be checking in on them and making sure they are following those guidelines. There's something everyone can do to protect the community from COVID-19.
This may seem uncomfortable, but so is being hooked to an IV, sleeping in a hospital bed, and fighting for your life. When it comes to COVID-19, comfort is not as important as saving lives. Wearing a mask can greatly reduce the chance of spreading the virus. So mask up, Michigan, every time you leave home.
Great to have you with us here on the Oakland County Megacast Tuesday edition here in the Civic Center TV studios, along with 89.3 Lakes FM. Tyler and I are here in the studios Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, although Thursday we'll be taking a little bit of a break for a special event.
Yeah, the special event is the Virtual Innovative Business Event, or VIBE, as it is known, brought to you by the Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce in a partnership with us here at Civic Center TV and Lakes FM, as well as Motown Digital and other organizations throughout the local area. It's a free event, VIBE, V-I-B-E, at motowndigital.com. You can register for free. Register for free today. And the event begins tomorrow and runs tomorrow and Thursday.
And one of the things I think we've all learned during this pandemic is a community engagement is so vital to surviving this pandemic. We've spoken at length through the months with so many of the different individuals from the chambers, and one of the things they've said is do not be isolated. You need to reach out and get engaged with your community, and so many businesses are doing that right now. And Ngoc Do is with us here on the Oakland County Megacast today. She is with Vibe Credit Union. You are the community engagement specialist. What does that job entail?
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. Yes, I'm honored to be a community engagement specialist for Vibe Credit Union. Ironically, the seminar or the virtual event is called Vibe as well, so that's kind of nice. We're synonymous with the chamber, and we love working with the chamber and helping get our message out to help as many people as possible. So my role is really speaks for itself. I'm engaging with the community and helping educate and inform, and to sponsor events to help support, whether it be financial support or volunteer hours or whatever they may need to run their event. There's so many worthy causes in our area and that we would just love to be a part of. And so I have the honor of doing that for my company.
Before we get into some of the causes that Vibe Credit Union has helped support through the years, can you talk a little bit about the financial stability of people and their businesses right now during the middle of a pandemic? How can they maintain their credit score and their financial stability when maybe they lost a job? Is it one of those things, can they go in to the credit union and try to directly communicate with someone within your business about how to maintain a good look on that credit? Or is this also a time where so many companies or business entities are offering a little bit of grace because so many people are suffering during the pandemic?
Absolutely, great questions, and yes to both. As it all happened at the beginning of this year, we were prepared to address our members' needs on a case-by-case basis. giving much consideration and leniency as possible to their financial hardship. We all have different situations, whether it be work or personal life. And so we definitely want to be able to help our members who were negatively impacted by the quarantine, by not being able to go to work and provide for their families on like they were used to doing. So we were able to help so many people during this time that it not only gives us really good feeling, but it also is financially, we are being financially responsible and trying to help our members. And luckily, we haven't seen too many of our members be in such a detriment. And being a multi-million-dollar company that we are, we actually merged with Oakland County Credit Union recently. And so we have a very strong foundation. We are a $1 billion credit union, 16 branches in Michigan. And so we have that financial foundation to be able to help our members. And yes, our members are encouraged to come in and speak to us if that's something that we can help with. Now, your credit score, is impacted by everything you do, whether there's a pandemic or not. And so we work with also other organizations outside of Vibe to help those who might need to improve their credit score. And Green Path is one of those local organizations we've worked with for multiple years in helping our members get back on the right track. So we have not only, can we help them, but we have other resources as well.
Just going back to the basics, can you offer advice as to when an individual should decide to go with a credit union versus a regular mainstream bank?
I am from the old school that please take advantage of everything that's made available to you. So whether or not you decide to have just a credit union account or just a mainstay banking institution or both, take advantage of everything that they individually have to offer you. So we definitely are different from, let's say, a bank, traditional bank. And coming from that workforce and coming from that industry, I can definitely see where there may be some advantages to being with one or the other. But there's no rule that you can't have both. And so being from a credit union, working with a credit union and really getting to know the philosophy behind a credit union, I can definitely say that I would never go back to a bank. But that's not to say that, that might not be good for someone else. So being a nonprofit entity that we are, I think that makes a huge impact on how I do business, not only as a representative of my credit union, but as an individual and as a consumer. So it makes me feel good that that my credit union is actually looking out for me and not looking out for the bottom line necessarily all the time.
With that in consideration, Ngoc Do with us, community engagement specialist at Vibe Credit Union. Right now, so many companies and individuals alike are trying to navigate the financial toll of the pandemic, especially on the small business end. What advice, as you're going out into the community, are these businesses seeking from institutions like yours at Vibe Credit Union, and what advice are you giving them to help them navigate this as this pandemic seemingly goes on and on and on, and as that is the case, takes a greater toll over time on these small businesses' bottom lines?
Right. So definitely this is unprecedented times that we are in, and I don't believe that I personally or anyone else I know has ever had to experience anything like this. From a business standpoint, so I mean, I don't work directly with my members as being in the community engagement specialist. I don't firsthand don't know what they're experiencing. But I always recommend to go and speak to your representative from your financial institution, because they may have programs that may benefit you, but you wouldn't know unless it was advertised or unless you found out from your representative. So I definitely recommend speaking to a trusted representative. Also, you know, your accountant, tax expert, anyone in your life that you feel their expertise would be able to help you. I definitely, I know it's, again, everyone's going through a very similar situation in these times. And so I'm sure they have seen it all or have heard more than one might think. So I definitely recommend speaking to all those resources and that are available to you, and find out what you can do and what's out there available. There's so many grants also I've heard offered through the state and through local chambers. And so again, it's just a matter of research and reaching out and asking those kinds of questions.
Vibe Credit Union has been a big supporter of so many different organizations here in the greater West Bloomfield area. The need is so great right now. How do you pick and choose which organizations, which events you support?
That is a tough question because there's so many out there. We tend to support those who really could use our help. And we try to diversify those needs. So we don't want to always help the same causes in the same industry, because we want to be able to help as many people as possible in many venues. So for example, we supported the Oakland County Sheriff's Department by donating PPE items to the first responders. We donated hand sanitizer to the Salvation Army. Recently, we also went back to Salvation Army to donate cider donuts from local orchards to their food pantries, because again, families are being impacted by this pandemic, and so they have food pantries open on certain days. And so we felt it would be just a little nice pick-me-up to donate to that. We also donate to lots of causes such as Lighthouse. I believe they also help, households like domestic household victims, West Bloomfield Parks and Rec, Canton Libraries, Southfield Chamber of Commerce. We have 16 branches in Oakland and Macomb counties. And so we're able to spread out a little bit and diversify our support to all of those areas. So it's been a pleasure. Like today, this afternoon, I'll be attending the Canton Parks and Rec trick or treat event. It's going to be kind of fun to, it's called Treats in Your Trunk. And instead of the conventional trick or treat where, the kids come in to businesses, the businesses are coming to them during a parade type format in a parking lot of a church in Canton. And so it'll be kind of fun to be able to give to the children who are, again, are going through this pandemic just as much as the adults are. And we want to give them a little bit of a sense of normalcy if we can. So yes, lots of different events that we can support. We're just all about reaching out to the community. And then, financial education is also really important. And we can't let that go to the wayside just because there's a pandemic. So we go to speak to schools and companies about savings and budgets and things like that.
I think it's great that you do that, because I'm like, they need to bring back home ec, shop, and then they need to, try to come up with a program about financial responsibility. Because think about it, if the kids are educated, like if you're in high school and you start a savings plan from, mowing lawns or something like that, you start that when you're in high school, you could be set for, by the time you go to retire, and it just grew out of what you did in high school. So I think financial education is so important, and I wish so many of our school districts would take that on, as well as home ec. But guys need to go to home ec, and women need to take shop. We don't want to separate it anymore.
You don't need to do everything.
Right?
And it's so great. Thank you for mentioning the schools, because we do collaborate with multiple school districts in speaking to those juniors and seniors about credit score, because although they have parents, I'm sure, that are financially responsible, why not also commission your local financial institution or credit union to be able to help you learn more about what your credit score is, what a report looks like, pitfalls to avoid. How many times have we heard where, a young college student gets in a credit card trouble, maxing out their cards because they don't know how it works, and that it's not a free-for-all credit card, and that there's nobody has to pay for it. Guess what? Somebody ends up having to pay for it, and so.
I think we kind of lost you for just a second. Let's see if we can get.
Sorry,
There you go. You're back.
What happened
But touching on that, that's a great thing. I remember speaking with a dad in Detroit, and he was like, I wish someone would have taught me about the importance of a credit score back when I was young. And he was trying to make sure that his kids understood it and why it's so important. Because is it still so easy for some of these college kids to get credit cards?
I'm sure. They send to you in the mail. We go shopping and they entice you with a discount to sign up right there and then. So, they're just doing their job. I get it. But at the same time, those youngsters are not equipped to know the responsibility. They don't have the information enough to know how that works. And once you sign up, that's it, and it's going to impact you going forward. So, and that's why we reach out to the schools and speak to the juniors and seniors before they graduate to help them be prepared for that. And also we have scholarships for the graduating seniors too. So it's kind of nice to reward them for all their hard work as well before they go off to college.
Ngoc Do with us on the Oakland County Megacast. She's the Community Engagement Specialist with Vibe Credit Union, joining us today on the program. And Ngoc, on that note also, as you're talking to these students about maintaining a credit score, obtaining a credit card, being financially literate, how much of that goes into being vigilant about their credit? Because it's so easy for a young person to take their eye off the ball for a little bit, and then especially in today's world where there's so much more technology out there, and young people are accessing that technology. It's a lot easier for their information to get out there and for people to use it for malicious purposes, which could affect their credit score. How much of that is being discussed at the school level, or really on a community level as well, in the days that we're living in today?
Oh, absolutely. And it impacts not only just those youngsters, it impacts, middle generation and then the older generation. So there's always groups that are susceptible to being targeted by these companies.
Can you bring up that video that...
Sorry about that. We have a technical issue there. It looks like our next guest connecting in. We'll see. Is he still there? No, I believe you're good.
So I was just saying how, so many different age groups can be susceptible to malicious intent to defraud them. So, we have seminars, not only for credit score for juniors and seniors, but we also have fraud and ID theft educational seminars to help teach people about, again, pitfalls of those things and how to potentially avoid it, and also what to do if that were to happen to you. So I collaborate with local police stations to hold these seminars because they are also involved. Once you are, if you're a victim of ID theft, someone steals your ID, and that becomes a federal offense. And so the police are involved, the FBI could also be involved. So I'm very fortunate to have those kinds of contacts to be able to help, again, provide that information to our community to help protect them. So yes, again, resources that you don't know, or even are there available to you. And they're free because we want to help people. So again, check with your financial institution or your credit union, or come see me, because that's absolutely what I love to do.
And that's great that you do that, because some of these people that go through ID theft, it can be a nightmare to dig your way back out from under that type of situation, and even just restoring your credit after you've been the victim of identity theft. And so can you tell our listeners and viewers quickly, how can they access some of that information or tips just so that they can be informed and be educated so that they can try to avoid the traps of some of these scammers? Because online scams are up right now with so many people now using the internet for their day-to-day lives.
Absolutely, and I apologize. I'm just gonna jump over to my sent box here, and because I did send a couple of slides to a couple of people this week in that exact regard. The credit bureaus, there's 3 that are there to, again, hold your information. But they're definitely there available to you as well for you to check on. As a consumer, you have the right to check on your credit report, 1 free credit report a year per bureau. So I was just going to try to pull that up real quick and see if I can't give you the phone numbers or the websites. Oh my gosh, I don't remember who I sent it to the other day. Wait, did I send it to Jake? Yes, I did. Here it is.
Just due to how our studio is set up here, we're not able to kind of pull that up. So if you have it in front of you, do you want to just quickly kind of get that information out to our listeners and our viewers?
Yep. So, the credit. Oh, of course, that wasn't the one.
I know it's always like this when we're trying to look for something. My email is so jam-packed. You're like, okay, I know I saw that email somewhere. Where is it right now? Do you list that information on your website at all?
It is not, because our website, we can only hold so much information on our website, and credit bureau information is not something that, is on the top of everyone's minds necessarily. But I was just going to pull it up. Oh my gosh, sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's okay. If you don't have it handy, that's okay. We can try to maybe get it a little bit later and try to post it on our website as well, or maybe share that information with everyone as well, because I will say it definitely has been a nightmare for so many people that have gone through like an identity theft crisis. And are you seeing more and more victims of identity theft as so many people have been going online, or has it remained somewhat steady for the people within your members within the credit union?
I say that there's a huge increase. I would say across the board. It's an unfortunate thing, right, when people become a victim of something. But again, providing as much information to them as possible will help mitigate that. So the 3 credit bureaus, everyone as a consumer has the right to contact them. Their contact information is available online. It's TransUnion, Equifax, and I'm blanking out of the third one. But they're all available with 800 numbers and on their website to inquire about your credit report. And also, talking about ID theft through the government, there's a website called the Federal Trade Commission, and they actually provide great information on identity theft itself. So I use their brochures in speaking at my seminars to our consumers to help, again, navigate that area if they were unfortunately a victim, or to avoid being a victim. So their website is identitytheft.gov. So it's a government website, and it talks to them about, so here are the 3 credit bureaus: Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. So again, it tells you step by step through the Federal Trade Commission on what to do if you are a victim, and then the 3 credit bureaus are right there. So Experian is 888-Experian, TransUnion is 888-909-8872, and Equifax is 800-685-1111.
I would imagine if anyone believes they become a victim, the best thing they can do is to reach out and communicate with their financial institution, such as Vibe Credit Union. Quickly, before we let you go, just another minute or two, anything that you want to talk about with some of the events that you're coming up, or if I'm an organization, a nonprofit organization here in the greater West Bloomfield area, I want to reach out to you and maybe let you know about an event that an individual has coming up, or an organization, and they're looking for your support. How could they contact you, or what are the steps that you look for and the criteria that you're looking for?
Great, thank you. That's a great question. Yeah, so vibecredunion.com, and under the contact tab, I believe towards the bottom, it talks about, actually it's vibecredunion.com, and then the menu tab, it talks about, there's a couple tabs under About Us, and then there's Sponsorship and Donation Requests tab. So when you click on that, then you have an opportunity to tell us a little bit about your cause, and then we can review it and take a look to see if it's within our budget for the year, and if it's within our footprint of our branches, because we definitely want to be within demographic range of the event. Oakland County, Macomb County is where we're located. And so when you submit that donation request or sponsorship request, our marketing team has an opportunity to review it and see if we're able to help provide support.
Well, thank you for providing support to so many organizations and great events here throughout the greater West Bloomfield area. We appreciate it so much. And thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be with us here on the Oakland County Megacast.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a wonderful day. Appreciate all that you do.
Thank you so much. And Tyler and I are going to take a quick break here, just about 20 minutes left in the show. And when we come back, we'll be talking about the dreaded topic of taxes. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Just about 20 minutes left in the Tuesday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. And as the saying goes, there's only things certain in this world: death and taxes. Oh, taxes. The fun topic of taxes. And I would imagine when so many people go to do their taxes for this next year, it's going to be a crazy time because of the pandemic. So many worlds have been turned upside down. And if you are one of those individuals already stressing about how to navigate the tax world, well, you need a tax guru. Experts in the world are reading that tax code, and no better person to bring into this conversation than Mike Lorenz. He is a partner at Cohen and Company. You're a tax expert. How in the heck do you do it? You must love to read the small print of documents.
Well, like it or not, you're going to read the small print, and there's lots of it coming out fast and furious.
Oh my goodness gracious. I will say sometimes like it makes your head spin for a regular individual to try to figure out the tax world, because it's a language all of its own.
Absolutely. We speak our own language, and even at that, there's just so much change so rapidly that it's hard to keep up with the new language of what's happening next.
I know for some people such as ourselves, when Trump gained office and we went to do our taxes, boy, it was a wake-up call, because you weren't planning for some of those changes early on. So if we can dive into the conversation, what advice do you give to people right now, regular people, but also small businesses, as we're continuing to navigate the pandemic?
Well, you nailed it. When President Trump came in, there was really big tax changes. So there was the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act back in 2017, and then the CARES Act that have come in with the coronavirus. And you multiply that with the PPP loans, and all of a sudden you have a massive amount of information coming at people. The current tax laws are generally very favorable to small businesses and to transactions. So the conversation that we're having is to try and understand what is likely to be the tax law next year. So not only are we trying to digest the CARES Act and TCJA, but we're trying to read tea leaves and figure out what will happen in January. And knowing what we think will happen in January, what do we have to do between now and the end of the year to plan for that?
Did anyone tell you that when you decided to go into this area that you were going to have to be like a fortune teller and be able to read tea leaves?
It was really never one of the job descriptions. That I never took that class, but it really would have been helpful.
Right? So what advice
absolutely.
do you have for people?
Well, there's two thoughts going on. Candidate Biden has a very, very specific plan that he's put out there that we can look at and understand how it'll impact everyone. President Trump's plan is less transparent in this particular case. It's mostly extend the current Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, make it permanent if possible, potentially lower capital gains even more. And there's been discussion about a middle class tax cut, because the perception of his previous tax acts is they had a greater impact on high net worth individuals. So there is conversation that if President Trump is reelected, in addition to expanding the current favorable tax environment, he will provide some more relief for middle income people.
When you're looking at all of this on a day-to-day basis, how are you even trying to explain this to your clients? Because there are so many different factors, and businesses and individuals want certainty, and this is such an uncertain time.
That is the huge problem. Is you're absolutely right. Individuals as well, but business decisions usually are on a longer-term basis, and certainty is very valuable. There is no certainty right now, so most of my clients are creating A and B plans, and they're saying, if we have Trump, we're going to do this. If we have Biden, we're going to do that. So there is time between the election and when a law will be passed to implement strategies. For instance, a couple of Mr. Biden's proposals are to increase the capital gain rate up to 39.6%. So that certainly would incent people to sell their businesses this year rather than last year. So for people that are looking at considering selling, there'll be a lot of transactions between now and December 31st if Mr. Biden's elected, because the tax rate will go up so substantially. So everyone that's considering selling a building or an investment that they have or their stocks, there'll be a lot going on in December if Mr. Biden's elected. The same can be said for very high net worth families. It's a very favorable environment to transfer wealth today. Under Mr. Biden, that will change dramatically. And the ability to step up the basis of assets of death and to transfer large amounts of money, people with $10 and $20 million to their families tax-free, will go away. So on election day, or whenever the election's decided, who knows what that will be, how many days after the election, people will be looking at adjusting when they sell businesses and when they transfer wealth.
Similarly, there, on that note, Mike Lorenz, partner at Cohen and Company, for individual taxpayers, what are you suggesting for them as they're navigating this? Is it similar to what you're suggesting to business owners to have an A plan or a B plan, or is it more in preparation for what may need to be additional documentation or additional regulations that could be in place that they need to be aware of as they talk to their financial institution, their maybe a CPA that they go to for taxes, or as they're preparing to file their taxes through a free service well after the election is certified?
So I break individuals down into two classifications. High net worth, which will be significantly impacted by the Biden plan, and middle income, or the rest of us, if you will, that Mr. Biden's plan is generally not going to be adverse to. Potentially it'll be helpful. So he's talked about expanding the dependent care credit, increasing the child tax credit, providing first-time home buyers credit, incentives for renewable energy. So middle income are probably ambivalent on the tax code between the Biden plan and the Trump plan, except for Biden's plan has a significant impact on businesses, which may impact everybody, high income, net income. So business corporate taxes are going to go up from 21 to 28%, and there'll be a minimum tax on large corporations who, on their financial statements, show $100 million of income. All those things may have an impact on the economy and how and hiring. So very hard to advise people, figure out what position of the economy will be least impacted if there's a slowdown. So part of taxes is not just revenue to the government, but incentives for making the economy succeed. Some people may be impacted by how these tax changes impact their outlook from a job perspective. For instance, if you're in the oil and gas industry, Mr. Biden's saying he may not incent that. Whereas if you're in the renewable energy industry, you'll be incented. So there could be impacts on where people look for jobs, but I don't think there'll be significant impact on middle income tax rates.
There are so many different facets to the world, depending on the leader, our elected leaders that are sitting in office making some of these decisions for the regular person. And they think they want to go it alone and try to use some of these online services. What is your advice to them?
I guess it depends on how complicated the problem is. So if it's a relatively straightforward question, online services are great. They can provide really useful information. There's the beauty of your industry, the communications and industry, is you are putting out as an industry lots of helpful information on blogs, websites, broadcasts like this one. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity for people to educate themselves at a very low cost by reaching out to all the accessible information. On the other hand, some like tax preparation is very complicated. And to do that by hand, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it anymore because every time you make a slight change, there's huge impacts throughout the return. So actually from a tax preparation standpoint, I don't think it's practical without software.
It is a crazy world that we live in right now. And every year when those tax codes change, I would imagine sometimes people in your industry are just kind of going, shaking your head because you're constantly having to learn and to adapt, which I will say the one thing in this pandemic and the COVID craziness, it's forcing all of us to do right now. If you're a small business owner and this year has been like no other, what advice do you have to them, especially the ones that have had to, close down for so many months and then reopen at half of the capacity, such as restaurants or the smaller businesses such as that?
So many of those, there's several issues there. There's the business advice of how do we pivot to a structure that allows for profitability. So if you're down to 25% volume, how can you adjust your cost structure to make a profit? From a tax perspective, there's if I had a net operating loss, can I carry it back and generate a refund from prior years? So the bad news is you had a really bad bump in the business. If you can restructure and become profitable in the future, that can be by carrying back losses and getting a tax refund. Additionally, most of my clients right now are focusing on the PPP loan and figuring out how to make sure that they get, because many small businesses qualified, how to make sure that they will get full forgiveness of that loan. And actually, I'm doing a seminar tomorrow on helping small businesses apply for forgiveness on their loan and the pros and cons of that, and what are the risks and issues. And there are tax issues there as well. Government has taken the position that the payments made for wages based on the PPP loan are not deductible. That creates a tax issue. What year? This year, next year, the year it's forgiven? Those are all issues that, tax issues that are being addressed right now by small businesses as they try and navigate their forgiveness applications.
There was so much confusion on some of the loans that came out during the pandemic, especially for the businesses that I think when they passed the PPP loans, it was expected that some of these businesses would be open in a month or two, and then they couldn't bring their employees back, so they couldn't use the loans because they couldn't use it to pay employees who wouldn't come back. And then when they reopened, you had employees who didn't want to come back because they were making more money on unemployment. So that has just created such a nightmare for so many of these small businesses. And I think it's great that you're doing a seminar to help navigate this crazy world right now. Is there still room for that seminar? Is it going to be a virtual event?
Yeah, it's a virtual event, and certainly my office can send a link for anyone that would like to still sign up.
How do they get that information quickly, Mike?
I can send it to you. I'm not sure if you have a way to get it out to the audience.
Yeah, if you send that to us, then later today what we'll do is when we post this interview, we'll put the link with it as well, because there are so many small businesses out there that are struggling right now to try to figure out exactly how they're going forward as well, because they're potentially facing yet another shutdown if we go back down into phase 3. But if they got these loans, were they grants? Are they forgivable? Are they not forgivable? But also, how is that
What
going?
documentation do you need? When should I file? All of those are important questions for all small business.
Yeah, it's and do you and I would recommend if any year, which is so hard because businesses have already lost money, but this is not going to be the year for you not to invest in getting someone with an expertise such as yours and people in your industry to help you with your taxes. This is not the year to try to go it alone.
It would be a tough year. It's as you said, tremendous amount of reading and a tremendous amount of change. And you were right when you started the interview that socially we've had a tremendous amount of change, all of us, just to adapt to the new world order. Meeting on a video Zoom like this rather than in person in your studio. All those changes. They're difficult to adapt to, and keeping up with the level of changes, particularly if there's a change in the election, there's just not enough time to study it all, even though it may be out there. Not enough time to study it all. It's much easier if you have a coach.
Mike Lorenz with us. He's a partner at Cohen and Company, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. Mike, just another couple minutes with you today before we have to say goodbye and before we let you go. Any lasting advice to individuals and to businesses as they continue to navigate financially COVID-19 and prepare themselves for tax season, or just anything else that we haven't spoken on today that would be important for people in the general public to know regarding their financials or regarding taxes and preparation for that in the coming year?
Well, I guess it was a long time ago. I was a Boy Scout, and the be prepared is the motto. And I think that's as accurate of a motto I can provide anyone today. So as much as you can be prepared for what could happen, and that means an A, a B, and maybe a C plan, both for operating your business, for funding your business, for managing future cash flow of the business. You know, how do you make it if the worst case scenario is there is another surge? What are the alternative plans, and how do you manage cash flow? Because at the end of the day, if you can keep your cash flowing while you're pivoting to a new profitable model, your business will be successful.
And with that, Mike, quickly, are there times where it makes more financial sense for businesses to go ahead and call it quits?
Well, if you're losing money and you're at risk for the loss, we have to look at that and say, how deep do I want to go? I've signed personal guarantees. I've put up my house. I've put up all these things, and I don't see a way forward. Yeah, I think you should limit losses at some point. Many clients, though, have the possibility of investors that are involved and maybe non-recourse debt. So there's less risk in them trying to pursue a restructuring strategy. In the last recession, obviously restructuring and bankruptcy were solutions that helped business that accumulated too much debt restructure and get out of debt so they could be successful. At the end of the day, you have to have an underlying fundamental deliverable that the market wants to pay for. If you can't make money doing anything, you should stop. You're just burning money. But if you think you can, and it's simply an investment into perfecting that new deliverable, I would not give up. I would plow forward and minimize my risk where I could. Try not to be on personal guarantees. Try not to take losses that you can't recover either from a tax NOL or some other future tax benefit. But if you believe that your business ultimately will be profitable, I wouldn't say it's time to give it up at all.
So many hard decisions for business owners, especially the small business owners who don't have the resources to hire experts to help navigate this crazy world right now, and also how to cash in on some of the grants and programs that the government is offering. But Mike, it's always great hearing from you. Thank you so much for the advice and the expertise and sharing that knowledge with us here on the Oakland County Megacast.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
Thank you again, and we'll have the link up, or the information, if anyone out there is interested in trying to hook up with the seminar that Mike Lorenz and his team over at Cohen and Company are going to be putting on tomorrow. That's going to be pretty much the end of the Tuesday edition here at the Oakland County Megacast. For Tyler and myself, we want to say thank you for tuning in. A huge thank you as well to Jake, as well as Larry, for all their help in getting this show on the air each and every day. Everyone stay safe, stay healthy. This is the Oakland County Megacast.